This is stupid. We regret everything. By Burnt Out Ngel. I want to say before continuing this audio reading that I do not own this story. Please check the description to find the story summary and support Burnt Out Ngel, the original author. Chapter 1. Stoic was the only way to describe the look of the 16-year-old's face. Dark brown hair, most confused it for black, hung messily on his head as a clean white bandage covered one of his mahogany eyes. Sitting in the dimly lit room, due to the covered windows, the blank eye traveled from the door to the boss to the file placed neatly on the table in front of him. Mori-san, I don't mean to be rude, but shouldn't you hurry to explain the situation? Unless you're waiting for someone else to arrive. The brunette chuckled to himself. He knew the boss was waiting for someone, but luring an answer from his mouth was always more fun than comprehending. Actually, if he took a good look at the file, he would notice a name that clawed annoyance out of him brutally. Why was the annoying slug involved? He asked himself. Now, Dazai-kun, you can be a bit more patient as we wait for our guest. A sweet smile plastered onto his face, but the boy now known as Dazai wasn't fooled by it. He'd watch as the man sliced the old boss's throat. There was nothing sweet about him apart from his apparent love for Yokohama, the city they lived in. Rolling his visible eye, Dazai was about to reopen his mouth before a knock interrupted him, ceasing the words in his throat. Come in, Chuya-kun. Mori turned his attention to the door, hands underneath his chin, as a scalpel stood loosely between his fingers. Yes, boss? Chuya entered the room, eyeing the surroundings before an agitated look formed on his face. And what do you know? He was looking at his partner. Glad to see both of you have made it, he spoke in an eerily calm voice, his violet eyes glancing between his two subordinates. I have a new mission to propose to you both. Soukoku always hated how he said propose, as if they had a choice to decline. Well, technically, they could, but that would put them on the Port Mafia's unforgiving side, and no, one wanted to risk that without a safe place to hide for the rest of their lives. Not that a safe place would work. The Mafia was as slimy as a worm. Always having connections in odd and even places would put any of their foes at a disadvantage. Mori-san, please just spit it out. Dazai sighed, knowing the boss and his nature to drag out conversations with more conversations, just to test them, or at least that is what Mori liked to say. Chuya looked at him as if he'd gained another head. Luckily, he hadn't. Already dealing with one overworked, suicidal brain was enough. Thank you very much. My Dazai-kun, you wound me, but alas, if that is what you want. He trailed off. You both are infiltrating a school beyond the walls of Yokohama, more specifically a school in Musutafu, UA High School. Chuya and Dazai looked at each other, silently communicating, before turning to look at their boss as if he'd grown a bald spot. He probably had. He was wearing a beanie, and no one told you this. But Dazai had convinced Elise to put Nair in his shampoo, not that it concerned anyone at all. You've got to be kidding me. Chuya huffed, his shoulders slumped as the realization of no, he wasn't being kid set in. Do you have any objections? Mori teased, but it came off as threatening, forcing the ginger to retract his statement. No, boss. The shorter eyes frantically widened once he understood the words that left his mouth. What about you, Dazai-kun? At Dazai's features, perhaps it's not embarrassing for you to know, but I have an old favor I want to cash in, so a certain mouse can't hold it over my head anymore. Meaning? Chuya raised an eyebrow. If what Mori implied was true, a headache was surely going to come to bite him in the ass. Think of it as a babysitting job. Oh, how vague. And take care of a certain organization there. I don't care how. Only do. Apologizes for my ignorance, boss, but we have loads of enemies. Chuya began. How would we know what organization you're talking about? You'll know. Two things Chuya hated. One, how vague Dazai could be, intentionally keeping him out of the loop. And two, having his own boss do the same thing to him. One is his partner, who he could more or less read like a half-closed book on a good day, and can always trust to have his back no matter how shitty they felt about each other. The other is his boss, someone whom he couldn't hold the same trust for, but honed great admiration to for his leadership, and, undeniably, trusted to give him a place to belong. He means the League of Villains, Chibi. Chuya wanted to curse his partner out but refrained from doing so, grateful to the man for telling him. I wanted to see how long it would take him to figure it out. Mori whined, which was annoying considering his age. The man was pushing 40. But your job is to protect each and every student of Class 1A from the love. As you know, they've been a pain in the PM's behind for some time, always relocating and trying to barge into our city, so 2 birds with 1 stone. Nezu no longer has a favor over me, and the love is taken care of. They both hummed in agreement at the statement, finding it rather intelligent. And because you both are a year older than the rest of your classmates, we've created fake birth certificates and backstories for the both of you, so commotion is not caused. Can't we just go in there and say we're their bodyguards? Chuya questioned, raising an eyebrow. No, it would put too much attention on you both. Mori sighed. You're both dismissed now. I expect you both to start packing. You leave tomorrow immediately. What about money and stuff? Dazai finally spoke up, fiddling with his bandaged wrist. I've already transferred it from Yokohama currency to yen, the currency the rest of Japan uses. The brunette nodded, accepting the answer. Anything you need to buy, you use that. Also, you'll still be receiving your weekly paychecks. The duo stood up, preparing to leave before Mori said one more thing to them. Lastly, do not get caught. Because you are outside Yokohama, if your crimes come to light, I fear I won't have much authority to help. Understood, boss. Chuya bowed and left. Dazai had already forgone the office, irritation plaguing his brain. He didn't want to do some infiltration mission that would possibly take years to complete. But Chuya, the loyal dog he is, forced his hand a little. Poor dog. So loyal he would instantly get himself killed if it meant protecting his loved ones. Dazai didn't have the heart to do that. 1-1. The mile walk back to his shipping container was anything but peaceful. Dogs seemed keener to bark at the brunette, and random thugs tried to mug him, only to regret the decision immediately. A familiar, painful throb pounded against his skull as a migraine settled in. Yet, he kept pushing. The weedy teen had a job to complete, and a migraine needn't slow him. That's how enemies got the upper hand. Packing the few clothes he owned in a pearl-black suitcase that he borrowed from Mori one night before dropping it in a corner, the teen sat on the new mattress he finally convinced Mori to give him. The old one had springs loose and was disturbing his already terrible sleep schedule. The sun was now setting, and the brunette lay wide awake. Sleep hadn't come to him that night either. 1-1. Bastard Dazai, carry your own shit, Chuya shouted at his partner. No, slug. My arms are sore. If I do any manual labor, I'll collapse. Dazai whined, moving faster to get away from his red-faced partner. You weak bastard, Chuya screeched, chasing after him. I don't know why you're complaining. You're using your ability anyway. It's the principle of the situation, jackass. Whatever, slug. Dazai smiled widely. He always liked how free he could act when he either wasn't on duty, hanging out at Bar Lupin with his new friend Otasaku, or teasing the Ginger, who was getting dangerously close to him. Twin Dark could only hope this infiltration mission wouldn't be draining or cause unnecessary issues. 1-1. Dazai had researched beyond the walls of Yokohama on a laptop a subordinate quickly brought to him before they left on the train. Train, then bus, then car. Those were the vehicles they would need to take to make it to Musutafu, Japan. So, slug, the brunette quickly dodged a punch. Outside of Yokohama, there are these powers called quirks. It's a weird name for superpowers, but from what I've gathered, they're like babies learning to babble compared to abilities. Unlike abilities, they have limitations and are more biological than spiritual. So, there is more information regarding their creation because of that, unlike abilities, which are still considered mysteries despite our government heavily studying them and their ancientness. Meaning, quirks are made to alter human biology, letting them adapt to whatever power they've gained genetically and providing a level of safety to their owner. Abilities aren't. Hence, most ability users struggle to control theirs without someone else's ability as assistance. Take Arahabaki, for example. If it were a quirk, it would be weaker, yes, but you'll have an easier time adapting to it, even controlling its rage, without me there to nullify it. And because of our ability's unpredictability, it's made lots of people, who are aware of our existence, shun us because we are considered dangerous. The same way we shun quirk users because of their black and white mindset. So, because quirks are weaker, they're easier to control? Makes sense. Chuya nodded, humming contently at the information. More clicking echoed within the private room on the train. Look, showing his laptop to the Ginger. On it was information about their school, teachers, classmates, and more heroes. Chuya looked bewildered. They do not like privacy, I suppose. Yeah, no shit. The duo spent the remaining duration listing out all the information they found. Though they didn't know if they needed to be skeptical, this could mean the heroes are cocky or complete imbeciles. The duo was willing to bet on the last option, both. 1-1. Wake up, Chibi, we're here. Chuya's eyelids fluttered open as the moonlight bathed his skin under its cold embrace. The train ride only took 3 hours for them to get to the border of Yokohama, while the bus ride was supposed to take the longest time for them. They departed around 6 a.m. and spent 3 hours on a train, so 9 a.m. Chuya's eyes widened as he looked at the time. It was currently 7 p.m., meaning the bus took 10 hours. He could only pray the car ride was shorter. Be safe, kids. The night can get extremely dangerous over here. Dazai nodded at the driver, laughing to himself. The only thing people should fear is double black entering their city unannounced. Which one is the driver boss hired? Chuya pondered, looking at all the different colored taxi cars lined up. Now that they had a good look at their surroundings, everything was bright and colorful. It made their eyes hurt. That one. Pointing at a bright yellow car, Dazai dragged the ginger over to it. They didn't need to ask for a ride as the driver understood immediately and unlocked the doors for them. If they were right, they're only 20 minutes away from their temporary hotel room. They'll speak with the school principal tomorrow and get everything officially situated. Still wearied, Chuya rested his head on his partner's shoulder, pinching him slightly when the brunette tried to force him awake, earning a soft chuckle that would fall on deaf ears if you didn't pay close attention. Despite the current time and how relaxing a moving car felt to the taller, his eyes stayed open. It wasn't because of the flashing lights everywhere or the annoying constant signs saying, "You can be a hero, too," with a weird smiling man behind the words. It wasn't even because they were in foreign territory. If someone attacked them, Dazai was a light sleeper, and Chuya was currently in an attack immediately phase due to unfortunate events. The only culprit to blame was the organ in his head. It always stayed on, mushing his thoughts together in coherent, incoherent trains, and when he tried to turn it off, it turned into annoying static that was worse than a bug flying close to his ear. At least you could kill the bug, no matter what he did. Death didn't want to embrace him. However, he had to be grateful for the fact sometimes. If it did embrace him during those times, he tried ending himself, and Mori had to save him like he was in an action film, or whatever Mori had compared it to, then he wouldn't have met Otasaku, even though the way he chose to meet him is somewhat questionable, and he did receive a scolding for more than likely getting himself purposefully shot multiple times. The best option Dazai could do was to prattle to the driver, driving him over the edge with an annoying voice and questions, but when that didn't work, he chose to stare out the window. Moving forward a light as the car stopped, the thin teen roughly shook his partner awake. The lassitude from the journey was present on his features as he stumbled slightly out of the car, thanking the driver. "Such a slug you are," Dazai tisked. "Shut up, bastard." Chuya yawned, walking inside the hotel to the clerk. "Hello, how may I help you?" the sweet lady asked, looking up from her computer. "Hi, we booked a hotel room for the night yesterday, I believe." "Right, what's your name?" "Nakahara Chuya, or Dazai Osamu." The bastard didn't tell me whose name he put it under. The clerk giggled at the information, typing away on her computer. "It's under Nakahara Chuya." Standing up from her chair, she unlocked a key cabinet behind her and handed them one set. "Your room is 137 on the second floor." Chuya nodded, thanking the lady before dragging his fish-eyed partner. It didn't take much to find their room because of the building's simple layout. The rooms went from 1 to 99, 100 to 199, and so on, according to the map by the elevator. Once the duo reached their shared room, Dazai dragged his suitcase by the bed closest to the window, dropping it on the floor. "So what now?" Chuya asked, getting out a pair of sleepwear. Despite not doing anything but sitting, he felt dirty. "And don't get in bed before taking a shower." Fine," Dazai mumbled, opting to sit in a spinning chair. "But now we should rest and then tomorrow make our way to the school. Mori said he'll give us more details tomorrow, and the first person we should see is our homeroom teacher, Aizawa, waiting for us by the school gates with Nezu." Bobbing his head, Chuya lazily walked to the bathroom, necessities in hand. Dazai sighed in the chair, spinning around in it 3 consecutive times before resolving to daydream about all the possible suicide attempts he could achieve. They had to have more creative, painless suicide tricks he could try out, but jumping out of countless buildings would prove tiresome. Perhaps the mutants he saw on the way could provide a painless death for him. Chapter 2. It was a new day, and the duo looked worse for wear. They hadn't a clue how anyone could sleep in a city that would immediately turn rowdy at the sight of a hero fending off a villain in the dead of night. And it wasn't even every day, trying to get by life citizens, it was the reporters creating as much commotion as possible. Seriously, a helicopter for some tree person to fight off someone who looks like a skinwalker was not needed. Strolling down the busy streets of the foreign land, the sight of damn near nightmare fuel whiplashed the duo. Why did someone need so many eyes? They almost pitied the stranger, and how overworked their senses must be. UA shouldn't be too far, Dazai remarked, turning a corner before the prestigious school appeared in his overall vision. See, the walk from the hotel to school was a 20-mile walk, and Chuya was upset he couldn't ride his motorcycle due to Musutafu caring for illegal activity. The police in Yokohama tend to turn tail when the mafia is involved. Sauntering closer to the high school, that should have been a college, the figures of two people, one extremely short and in a business suit, and the other approximately 6'0", wearing black, cozy clothing and a gray scarf around his neck, caught their attention. Is that them? Chuya asked, squinting his eyes. He briefly entertained the idea of turning around and forgetting about this situation, though Mori would want his neck for willingly leaving a mission incomplete, no matter how strong he was. Having people after him would be dreadful. Not that it mattered. He would kick them to and through hell, closing the gate behind them. Yes, Slug. The two adults finally noticed the two approaching and began walking towards them. Greetings. Are you two the new transfer students? Nezu asked, tilting his head to the side. From what Mori so kindly told Dazai, the animal in front of him had an intelligence similar to his. If the names are Nakahara Chuya and Dazai Osamu, then yep. Aizawa sighed, seemingly aware of the type of students he'd be receiving, and Chuya seemed to notice it. My apologies about him, but yes, we are. Giving an awkward smile, Nezu smiled as his bean eyes seemed to shimmer. Good. Please follow me to my office. Your uniforms are there, and then we'll talk about your classes. 1-1. In the office, the duo stared at the horrendous outfits, holding them out as if they had the Black Death embedded within the fabric. It's a gray jacket with blue-green stripes and yellow buttons. There was a white button-up shirt to wear underneath, along with a red tie and what appeared to be dark blue-green pants. Chibi, I don't think this outfit would look good with your hair, Dazai mumbled, though having a red tie could help with that. There was the kick. Shut up, dumb mackerel, Chuya shouted, pissed his kick didn't land. It'll look fine on me. You should worry about yourself and your bandages. I mind, Dazai interrupted, noticing the dog-mouse-bear creature glancing at the previously mentioned bandages. My apologies. After being allowed to change in the staff's bathroom, faculty brought their luggage to the dormitory after they put their previous clothes in it. Double Black stood, eyeing each other to ensure nothing was out of place like a bandage or hair. Nodding to show nothing was misplaced, they turned their attention to their principal and homeroom teacher. Now I can go over the rules. Aizawa, this may be alarming, but please understand it's well in my intention. Aizawa raised an eyebrow, curious as to what his boss was planning. You two have free rein to go wherever, whenever, as long as you don't harm anyone. Aizawa's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He wanted to say something, but his boss beat him first. Apologies, Aizawa. I would have informed you, but you would have been reluctant to accept. Why would they need that privilege? The black-haired man questioned. Chuya looked at Dazai anxiously. He was always one to wear his emotions on his shoulder, wondering if it would be suitable to tell him. Because we're here as bodyguards from Yokohama for your students. As our temporary homeroom teacher, you should be aware in case we do something you deem out of line. No, your students can't be aware. They are, in fact, your typical high school students, and gossip tends to spread in places like this, Dazai explained in one breath. To ensure everyone's safety, we need to be undercover, especially since your boss declares a potential traitor is within this school. That was his second breath. Dazai didn't see a need to keep it a secret, though Mori advised otherwise. If a teacher were aware, not all but one, then it would make things easier. Aizawa eyed his principal judgmentally before going back to a poker-like face. You hired children. To protect children? Indeed I did. However, I cannot inform you as to why I did. That would create an unnecessary commotion. Aizawa rubbed at his tired eyes, a sigh begging to escape his throat, and he allowed it. And they're from Yokohama? The closed-off city? They are capable. Nezu turned to look at the duo. So about your backstories? Chibi and I come from an organization in the more populated parts of Yokohama that thrives off wanting to be heroes and leaving Yokohama. There were a few groups like that. And upon having our efforts recognized by pro-heroes breaking inside the barrier every year or so, the principal granted 2 people the ability to be temporary transfer students here, us. Dazai sighed softly. Mori-san created it, so if it sucks, that's why. Why not lie about where you were born? Aizawa questioned. It was a good one. Most people probably didn't fuck with Yokohama since most pro-heroes came out with wiped memories or never to return. Peaceful city with government permission. If something happens and someone reveals we're from Yokohama, it'll create distrust. Better to get it out the way than deal with a headache. I completely agree with that. Nezu nodded. May you also inform us well, Aizawa, of your abilities? No longer human, upon the tainted sorrow. Confused glances directed towards them. Perhaps complicated names aren't the norm. Chuya thought, unembarrassed. We'll explain later to the class. Okay, well, the next rule is that you are only allowed to interfere if a pro-hero struggles during battle and the students are at risk. We don't want to foil your positions right away. Understood. Chuya, the dog he is, seemed keen on following the rules, meaning by default, Dazai would have to too, unless he wanted an angry ginger on him. I've already informed the class we'll have 2 new students, so an explanation should be brief of why I was out, Aizawa informed them, standing in front of the abnormal-sized door. Whatever you say, sensei. The older man quickly entered the room, looking 10 times more tired. Everyone shut up the moment the door opened, eyes looking at the door expectantly. It took you guys 2 seconds to shut up. Good, you're improving a lot, Erasure praised. The 2 transfers have arrived and are standing right outside this door. Behave when they enter. No inappropriate questions. He looked at Mineta, but other than that, do not bother me. Yes, Aizawa-sensei, the class shouted in unity. Aizawa quickly popped his head out of the classroom, signaling them to enter. Don't scare them, Bandages, Chuya whispered to the lanky teen. Aw, so cruel. Dazai whined I would never. Lies. Dazai, once he was aware, was amused and curious once he learned the ginger had heterochromia, one eye cerulean blue and the other a reddish brown. Yet he never tried to see for himself. Even if he doesn't know the reason he hides it, he can make an educated guess that it's to show his past, as living child experimentation doesn't define him in any way, and to remove any potential relation to Verlaine since he owns 2 reddish-brown eyes. Just give a rundown of basic information. Don't go into too much detail unless asked. Even then, you don't have to give much. You seem accustomed to this. I went to school, you know, but only for 8 years. Chuya looked shocked at the silent information, and Dazai was offended. Though the conversation looked long, it was brief, a glance, if you will, before they turned their attention to their new peers. My name is Dazai Osamu. Nakahara Chuya, please call me Chuya. What's with the bandages? Some bald-haired child asked. Was he honestly a teen? If so, Dazai should apologize to Chuya for putting him in a competitive environment. What's with your hair? Dazai argued, the atmosphere stilling. Just joking. Bandages are very fashionable, you know? He was pleased with people making fun of his bandages, because they mostly deemed it a bad fashion sense. Only a few knew what they hid, and he would be grateful to keep it that way. The grape child started to laugh, calling the brunette delusional or something. Chuya seemed to come to terms with spending the rest of his life in prison, not because of the delusional part. His partner could be delusional, but due to the blatant question asked. Do these people not know when to shut up? But the teacher interrupted. Stop laughing like a hooligan, and don't ask questions that could lead to sensitive information. You're lucky it didn't this time. The dwarf quickly apologized, cowering under his teacher's glare. Dazai couldn't help but wonder if he was the short friend people referred to when speaking of Santa's elves. Excuse me. All attention turned to seat 18. A kid with fluffy green hair raised his hand, not meekly but with uncertainty, yet still confident. Speak, Midoriya, instructed their teacher. What are your quirks? As if he was a magician, which wasn't too far from possibility. Yes, a notebook appeared in his hand, along with a pencil. Another silent conversation ensued between the two rivals. Nullification. Gravity manipulation. Aizawa looked shocked at Dazai's answer, never meeting someone with a similar power like his, while the rest looked stunned that two people shared comparable quirks with their peers. May you go into detail? A classmate of ours, Uraraka, also controls gravity. Well, she can only make things have no weight, but... And the kid started to mumble. What the hell? Nullification is only activated through touch. That was all Dazai said. Nay reason to tell them that no powers, no matter the distance, affected him unless it was unnatural. However, most would point at Arahabaki deeming it a god, but Arahabaki is a singularity, so it's not artificial but natural. There also wasn't any point in telling them that as long as there was physical contact with something or someone, no powers would work on either, or how there wasn't an off switch apart from the sweet release of death. It's gravity. What more do you need? Chuya looked perplexed that they needed a profound understanding, causing Dazai to facepalm. Doria looked embarrassed and began apologizing. How odd. All right, go and sit at the empty desks. Dazai dragged a reluctant Chuya to the empty seats, quickly walking past curious gazes. He knew they were wondering why he had a bandage over his eye, probably thinking it would be a hindrance, but having one over his eye does him more good than not. Do you want to be 21 or 22? Dazai asked, looking at the seat placements. Actually, you take 21. It's the smaller number. Dazai expected to dodge a kick. His reflexes told him to, but nothing came, so he didn't. Upset that his dog was behaving, Dazai sat in the 21 seat before his self-proclaimed dog could, trying to provoke him. That seemed to work since the ginger glared at him, making Dazai happy again. Thank you and subscribe for more Bungo Stray Dogs fanfictions. Let me know what was your favorite scene.